Welcome everyone, I'm Kareem Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and now that all of the film has been watched and all of the grades are in, it's time for the FBGP Scouting NFL Draft Prospect Preview presented by Crossover. Before we get started with our rankings, here's how we gather our grades and what they actually mean. First, we watch a minimum of 3 full games on a prospect, his best game, his worst game, and the best possible matchup. And second, we grade on 15 key points specific to the position to equal 100 points in total. Now here's what the grades you'll see by a prospect name will actually mean. Prospects that have earned grades in the 90s graded out as potential future NFL All-Pros. Prospects in the 80s are considered future Pro Bowl players. Grades in the 70s represent solid NFL starters, and grades in the 60s are players that we believe are spot starters or situational starters in the NFL. And if you notice, we don't use the word reserve or backup because we personally feel as though there's no such thing as backups in the NFL, only starters in waiting. So without further ado, let's kick off our rankings by taking a look at our top 10. Our number 1 rated running back is LSU's Leonard Fournette. The 6'1", 240-pound junior left LSU early, and to be quite honest, there wasn't much left for him to do in Baton Rouge. The player Fournette compares favorably to, in my opinion, is Herschel Walker. Let's take a look back at Herschel in the USFL to understand my comparison. As you can see, Walker was about the same size as Fournette, 6'1", 225, with explosive bursts, a one-cut downhill runner. Walker ran for over 4,800 yards in 3 years in the USFL, including a Pro Football record 2,400 yards in 1985, which still stands to this day as a Pro Football record. Add the 8,100 yards he rushed for in the NFL, and you can see why I feel as though that he should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay, I'm off the Herschel Walker soapbox. Back to Fournette. He has similar traits, a tough inside runner that's very tough to bring down. It's not because he's only powerful, but he's also explosive. Fournette, in my opinion, is a closer, which I like. You can give him the ball 20 to 25 carries a game, and he'll be able to get you a lead and also finish a game for you. He has a receiving skills that I think are being vastly underrated because he wasn't asked to do much of that at LSU, so I wouldn't be worried about him in that capacity in the NFL. As far as a scheme preference, again, inside zone, gap scheme, throw a fullback in front of him, I think he can easily obtain 12 to 1,400 yards a season. One cut downhill runner with explosiveness. To me, Fournette is tailor-made for the NFL game. Checking in at number 2 is Dalvin Cook of Florida State, and what's impressive about Cook's game is his explosiveness, and that in turn generates run power. Cook breaks a boatload of tackles, and I think his run power is being vastly underrated. It's simple physics. Something that compact, moving that fast, will be very hard to bring down with an arm tackle. He also brings added value in the passing game. He's money on your dart routes, screens, and even going downfield if matched up against a linebacker. The nagging injuries and shoulder history does give you a slight concern, but he's a home run hitter with the ability to ring up that cash register pretty quickly. Looking at the remaining top 10, you can make a legit case that Christian McCaffrey of Stanford is the most grossly underrated running back in this year's draft class. I'll go ahead and say it. McCaffrey is a white running back, and he's getting pigeonholed as a certain type of running back. But in reality, he's a Tiki Barber clone. He can run inside and help out as a receiver and also as a returner. Playing at Stanford, he has experience in a pro-style running game, which is a big boost to helping a running back develop their vision, which is where he excels. Jamal Williams has been great since stepping foot on campus at BYU. He's a taller back with very good vision and footwork, who is also coming off a terrific Senior Bowl week. And Donnell Pumphrey, who was a football subdivision all-time leading rusher in history, can get up on a defender quickly, make a move, and outrun guys to the end zone. Don't let the size fool you. He can run inside, but you also still would like to see him get a little bit stronger as he moves forward to the NFL. Kareem Hunt out of Toledo is a terrific tailback. He's 5'11", 210 pounds, and I like how he knows how and when to deliver a blow and also how to control his body to break tackles. That's a very underrated skill for a running back to possess. We've seen him transform his body this season, but even going back to his freshman year, you saw the vision, the balance, and the willingness to pass protect, which is ever so important at the next level. Hunt was the top tailback at the Senior Bowl all week long and should be a featured starter in the NFL. Tariq Cohen out of North Carolina A&T will raise some eyebrows because of how high I have him graded here, but this guy is a legit game breaker and has some of the most impressive tape that you'll find out there. In this example, you'll see the vision, explosiveness, and lateral agility all on this one run. He rips off a 40+ yard gain without getting touched. He's able to change directions as fast as he's able to run in a straight line. And I've compared this game to Darren Sproles of the Philadelphia Eagles, and in my opinion, he can handle feature back carries. People will focus on his size, but remember, size is not a skill, and you can't hit or hurt what you can't touch or catch. Cohen is a special talent. We also have a pair of Oklahoma Sooners in our top 10, starting with Samaje Perine, who graded out a shade higher than his counterpart Joe Mixon, partly due to the natural running skills that Perine possesses. His vision running the football is consistent, and he's what we like to call a chain mover. His game is very similar to former Philadelphia Eagles running back and now running backs coach Deuce Staley, a compact, stocky built runner. Perine's quick feet allows him to change direction and cut on a dime while being able to string moves together, all the while moving downfield. Joe Mixon is the polarizing prospect of this draft class, but on the field, there's a lot to like about his game. The comparison you'll see from a lot of people is Le'Veon Bell, and I can definitely see that. For instance, when you look at the patience of Mixon, you can see some Le'Veon in his game. He does a great job of allowing his blocks to be set up before making a decision, and too often you'll see backs immediately take this carry outside instead of being patient. Patience gave him the opportunity to rip off the big gain. Now, later on in the same contest, here's another example of waiting for the blocks to be set up before putting his foot in the ground and exploding through the hole. Now, the comparison I gave him is to Ty Montgomery of the Green Bay Packers, because I feel as though Mixon right now is more dangerous as a receiver than as a runner at this point. His vision is solid but not great, and I feel as though at times he goes down too easily. But in the passing game, he creates mismatches. As you see here versus Texas Tech on a simple seam route out of the backfield, Mixon blows past a linebacker and is very natural in tracking the ball over his shoulders for a touchdown. Here up at the top of the screen in the flat, calmly reaches out and snags the ball with one hand as he scampers into the end zone. So both as a runner and as a receiver, Mixon brings a lot of tools and versatility to your football team. I like the upside of James Conner out of Pitt, and I say upside because a lot of people forget that he was a two-way player as a freshman playing some defensive line for the Panthers. As his running skills improved from his freshman season to his sophomore year, Conner was steamrolling to a possible Heisman Trophy campaign as a junior, but suffered the knee injury early on in the season and also had to overcome cancer. This past season, he was able to get back on the field and compete at a high level. I still think 2 years removed from everything he went through, he'll get back on the right track, and an NFL team will get themselves a running back that can run inside, that can pass protect, and also has the downfield capabilities in the passing game. Moving on to running backs 11 through 20, and both Joe Williams of Utah and Elijah McGuire of Louisiana are explosive backs that were outstanding during the East-West Shrine Game practices, and to me, they have better running skills than a guy that stylistically compares to them in Alvin Kamara out of Tennessee. Solid crop here with Wayne Gallman, Matt Days, and Corey Clement. Consistency is the name of the game, and those guys definitely have it. Jahad Thomas of Temple is an explosive move piece in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot and also run inside or outside with. He's a terrific player and is coming off a very good pro day. I also like the fact that backs like De'Veon Smith and Devin Redding have gotten better each year and do a lot of things really well. And Smith definitely raised some eyebrows in St. Petersburg this past January at the East-West Shrine Game, so much so that he earned a call-up to the Senior Bowl. One of the more underrated stars in this year's draft class is Aaron Jones out of UTEP. He has battled some injuries, but when he's on the field, he was very impressive. The biggest part of his game that I think that's impressive is his fluidity. Jones does not waste movements in finding a lane and bursting right through it. A lot of it is tied to the fact that he has tremendous vision, which also allows him to be able to anticipate an opening, make the cut, and not lose speed. And that losing speed part is also what you're noticing that he doesn't do. He shows the ability to open up his stride and pull away from defenders. He has a really good feel, a really natural feel for blocking assignments and leverage, which he uses against defenders. His game compares favorably to Thomas Rawls of the Seattle Seahawks. Jones is a starter in the NFL and will be a darn good one. A lot of burst and power with the backs on our list from 21 through 30. Will Stanback was excellent earlier in his career at Central Florida before transferring to Virginia Union, where he became an all-conference performer and is also coming off a really good workout at the DC Regional Combine. Darius Victor of Towson reminds me of a Maurice Jones-Drew type, a fire hydrant built back with tremendous balance and power. He battled some nagging injuries during his time, but he can definitely tote the rock really well. Keep an eye on Jordan Johnson of Buffalo. His game compares to another former Bulls running back and former Packer, James Starks. Leonard Tillery of Southern has put together an impressive career for the Jaguars. He was a former walk-on that went on to become the Southwestern Athletic Conference's all-time leading rusher. With the illustrious history of the SWAC, with Walter Payton just to name the most famous, is definitely saying something. He reminds me a lot of Lance Dunbar, and it's the initial burst of Tillery that gives credence to his game. I see his projection being mostly as a complimentary guy in the NFL who can help out a team as a returnman. DeAndre Foreman is a big back from the Texas Longhorn program that plays a lot like former Tennessee Titans running back Lindell White. What first jumps out at you on film about Foreman is how large of a back he is, and he has that look of an NFL player. But what has him this far down in my rankings is the fact that he's inconsistent from down to down from a vision and footwork point of view. For example, in this great game versus Baylor, where Foreman rushed for 250 yards, you can see it on display. In this first example, the play design was for Foreman to follow the pulling lineman and fullback around the way, which would have been a positive gain. Instead, he tries to cut it back against the grain and ends up with the minimal gain. You want him to remain disciplined in the assignment and play design until it's completely taken away. Otherwise, this will be the result 9 times out of 10. But when he does, like in this next example, he's very good at finding a crease and picking up positive yardage. Even here, subtle patience shown by Foreman as he presses the hole before making the cut and is able to accelerate to the end zone. So if he can find that level of consistency to his game from a vision, footwork, and pass protection standpoint, most importantly, then he can enjoy a lot of success as a pro. As you can see, peeping out backs 31 through 40, some productive names here from big-time programs. Russell Shell from West Virginia and Elijah Hood from North Carolina. Both dealt with injuries during their career, but both were very productive backs. Robert Healy of East Stroudsburg and Stanley Williams of Kentucky are arguably the most versatile in this group, and I'm a big fan of Dare Ogunbowale and Dan Andrews of Brockport, a Division III program. Both guys, in my opinion, can have rookie impacts on special teams. Kelfani Muhammad, Joe Yearby, and Marcus Cox are tremendous receivers out of the backfield. And speaking of tremendous receivers out of the backfield, Octavius Mathers of Middle Tennessee State fits that description to the T. Mathers was excellent during the East-West Shrine Game practices. He's a slasher with home run hitting speed that's deadly on screens and also vertical routes. From a running perspective, inside zone, outside zone, and stretch plays are his specialty. I also believe he can play the East-West running game very well, so you could put him in any part of your offense and he'll excel. Rounding out our top 50, still some very good runners available in this draft class. A lot of these guys can also aid in a return game. Steven Scott of Lincoln in Pennsylvania runs hard and does a great job in catching the football. And if Cade Harrington was healthy this year for Lamar, he might have crossed 2,000 yards on the ground. He's a deep sleeper in his draft class. DeAngelo Henderson of Coastal Carolina has been on the NFL radar for quite some time now, and the reason why is that he's super productive and has very underrated burst and quickness, both of which help him gain a step on the defense and also gets him out of trouble. He ran a 4.4 at the NFL Scouting Combine and could follow in the footsteps of another Chanticleer in Mike Tolbert. And finally, not leaving out my fullbacks, here are our top 10 for this year's group. Sam Rogers of Virginia Tech is the best of the bunch. I like his ability to flex out in the slot and be valuable as a receiver. In addition to being a one-cut downhill runner, he's the new age fullback, in my opinion, who can run, catch, and also, in addition to his blocking assignments, do all three very well. Darren Lufasa out of UTEP played a big role in Aaron Jones' success. The 6', 250-pound fullback is a devastating blocker, and both Michael Latu and Tyler Renew are triple option fullbacks with superb running skills. So that's a wrap for our 2017 FBGP Scouting Draft Prospect Preview presented by Crossover. To see more of our individual scouting reports, follow us on Twitter at FBGP Scouting and bookmark the page footballgameplan.com/FBGP Scouting. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/footballgameplan, where you can get all of our scouting videos, mock drafts, pro day videos, and interviews with NFL draft prospects. And one more thing, subscribe to us on iTunes under Football Game Plan Podcast.